and I would like to welcome you to this former West Public Editorial meeting and transit.hu conference with the title, "There's a crack in the Museum of History, is that how the future gets in?" So soon we will have the nice slides too. I would like to welcome the international and local speakers and thank them to accept the invitation to our event. We are very pleased that the collaboration with the former West project could happen here, but the reason Budapest became a hotspot for discussing lost utopias and historical revisionism is something that makes us all worried and desperate. The question of the long-term former West research project, which will be presented to you in some minutes by its initiator Hlavajova, namely how the political transformations around 1989 changed not only the region behind the former Iron Curtain, but also the West. How in the last 25 years, the former East and the former West in a globalized world in interrelation learn from each other, the good and the bad, is more current than ever. The high expectations on both sides in the East to finally, for the second time in history, become new democracies, and on the side of the West that these new democracies will learn the lesson soon and effectively. What we experience instead is that Western democracies are declining both in economical and ideological terms, and in most cases representing neoliberal values with decreasing social sensitivity. The newcomers struggle with their ghosts from the past and go for more than controversial illiberal democracies, as the Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán claims. And we experience the consequences of this, a labor-oriented, antisocial and racist government which only accepts conservative Christian values and is even supporting far-right ideologies. The society in Hungary is deeply polarized. The desperate left is paralyzed and does not find its way to the masses, and the right conservative majority is drinking the words of the state media transmitted drinking the words of the state media transmitting officially, we are performing better, if not the best. The ideology supporting decentralizing politics is looking into the 1,000-year-old Christian past, reinforcing national sentiments by all means and criminalizing all ideologies which support internationality and leftist thinking, which reside in a strong anti-communist ideology. We chose, Transit, in this project, chose the case of Trianon as a starting point to look at how collective memory is influenced by memory politics and defines the thinking of generations. This historical event, the Trianon Treaty signed in 1920 in Versailles, is a highly debated event in Hungary. As the consequence of Hungary lost 2/3 of its territory and its empire position. The far-right sentiments and even many of the Christian conservative approach is still a revisionist one, at least in the rhetorics. For the left, it is exactly of this reason a taboo subject. And it was important for us to position ourselves, I speak about Transit again, as an artistic organization and the role of artistic tools in the discourse of memory politics, and see if artistic formats can be applied to break down the walls. We were trying to find participatory formats which can build on the real experience of people and find ways of common learning which helps to narrow standpoints. You will see the results of this experiment in our tomorrow presentation. Besides that, we published a book which we called A Guide to Hungarian Memory Politics, which consists case studies. You are welcome to read in it. And also we had a plan to involve artistic interventions into this meeting. So you see a project which is on view for these 2 days, Ferenc Gróf's Schweik in the Third World War, which is in the walls. And in the breaks you can see 2 artistic works by Nilde Lufa and Hajnal Németh. And in the evenings we also offer 2 screenings. But you can read all details in the program. And for now what I need to do is to thank to all the people who helped this project to be realized. The former Vesti, Maria Hlavajova, Boris Buden, Simon Sheikh and Vitske Mas, the project manager. I would like to thank my curator colleague Zsuzsa László and our project manager Zsóka Leposha. And we would like to thank the FUGA Contemporary Architecture Center to offer us the space. And wish you now very pleasant 2 days full of discussions. And I would hand over the word to Maria Hlavajova, the initiator of the Former West project, which goes on since 2008. Maria is also the artistic director of BAK, Basis for Aktuelle Kunst in Utrecht, which she founded in 2000, which is an institution constantly rethinking itself. Maria is also with many lines connected to Hungary. She was for many years active in the Open Society Institute in different positions. So that's Maria.
Thank you, Dora. Thank you, Dora, for your words of welcome, for this opportunity to work together. It's been exciting and very challenging on many grounds. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. My name is Maria Hlavajova, and I'm artistic director of BAK, Basis for Aktuelle Kunst, an Utrecht-based art institution organization that connects art, theory, and politics. An institution that initiated this project, Former West, in 2008, as Dora has already mentioned. Now, allow me to use this opportunity to share with you a couple of thoughts, maybe footnotes even, about the idea of Former West and the project that carries this name, and to do this by means of just really a few introductory fragments in this short period of time within this introduction. I just want to gesture towards some sort of opening of conversations for these 2 days, which I'm sure are going to be intense, critical, and in-depth conversation in the course of these 2 days, and I very much look forward to this. Now, Former West is a nomadic, long-term transnational project, a composition of discourse, research, education, publications, exhibitions that aim together at developing a critical understanding of the legacy of the year 1989. An initially emancipatory promise the year 1989 brought forth, not just in what we now call Former East, but across the entire world. The world that had been for decades torn by the Cold War tripartite narrative, that promise seems to have instead catapulted us into the post-historical condition. There is no alternative to the hegemony of the neoliberal marriage of so-called democracy to capitalism, is the catchphrase of these post-political times. But how could it be? How could it be that the event of 1989, the result of radical transnational citizens' resistance to power, end up reducing these very citizens to passive functions of advanced capitalism, foreclosing the possibility to have a stake in the articulation of our time and of the future? Now, if I fleetingly mention Former East, one might have wondered why a similar shift in breaking with Cold War protocols and relations had not taken place within its Western geopolitical counterpart. For the so-called West, as we know, the events of 1989-1990 have been readily interpreted as the final victory of its own version of capitalist democracy. And in this triumphant mood, it has thus largely continued its business as usual, thinking and acting both symbolically and realistically as first world among what were supposed to have become equal, if heterogeneous parts in the promise of a common world. Now, the imaginary of another past is possible seems crucial within this constellation. For sure, this widely accepted institute of historical imagination stands in bare contrast to the emancipatory project that sought to imagine otherwise not the past, but of course the future. I borrow this phrase, "another past is possible," from Boris Budan, writer, culture critic and translator, as well as co-editor of the upcoming Former West publication and thus also of this public editorial meeting. Boris claimed, and I quote, "Now it is the past that has become a new promised land of our imagination, where everything might have been different than it actually was, at least in the new growing genre of the so-called alternative histories," unquote. It might be that this shifting temporal logic that presides over our present has to do precisely with the resignation captured in accepting the pessimistic diagnostic that there's nothing we can do about the future. The proposition of Former West is in many ways an embodiment of these complications, not the least because it proposes that out of the changes of 1989, a Former West should have emerged as an instruction for how to think the horizon of one world. As yet unrealized, we feel we must commit to continue realizing its formerness, albeit in the future. Now, formerness is not a theme, but rather a conceptual device, or even a navigational tool, intended as a way of both orienting within and negotiating the conditions of the present, and at the same time of programmatically reclaiming the possibility of another future. If its analytical dimension, in other words, allows us to map out what it means to live under the current condition, its programmatic facet envisages and anticipates a world rescued and reclaimed from the Museum of History, to restate the title of this gathering. Now, the project Former West has actualized as a long trajectory of thinking, collective thinking, in fact, with and through art. And indeed, it's been a process of which art has been the primary convener. And I mean the kind of art that invests its faculty of imagination into a crucial shift from critique to proposition and into the articulation of the demand of the world otherwise. Intermittently throughout this process, this continuum of thinking has been interrupted or punctuated, if you will, by activities in the form of public negotiations of various kinds, be they exhibitions, seminars, congresses, or public editorial meetings, such as this one. The idea behind these public editorial meetings is to invoke, of course in public, the very qualities of actual editorial gatherings, both their informality and depth. Crucial, I think, in this process of the culminating phase of the project, the goal of which is to renegotiate the Former West knowledges for the forthcoming publication titled Former West Art and the Contemporary After 1989. These public deliberations, taking place over the next 2 years in various locales, from London to Warsaw to Utrecht to Medellin to Budapest, bear in mind the political cultural transformations specific to the places in which they are held, situating thus the discussions in concrete contexts and localized knowledges. Now, we have learned a lot, and we have a lot to learn from our partner, Transit organization, HU, and its project War of Memories, realized, and we know, in politically complex and troubling conditions of present-day Hungary. And we equally recognize the immense efforts of the currently held Biennale, Biennial, in reclaiming the space of art as a space in which to imagine and practice things otherwise. Now, having said, allow me to thank Dora once again and Transit organization here in Hungary, as well as her remarkable team, for this opportunity and enjoyable collaboration. I want to thank Boris Budan, Simon, who are the co-editors of the upcoming publication in this series of public editorial meetings, and of course, foremost research and program coordinator, Vitska Maas. I owe my thanks also to my colleagues at BAC, back at the home base in Utrecht. And of course, I want to thank all the contributors and all of you who join us for this gathering. The realization of this project has been made possible by support from Creative Europe program of the European Union. Now, up until today, the Formwas project has been unfolding through a multitude of collaborations, friendships, and solidarities with artists, thinkers and scholars, organizers, and activists across the world. And I feel both humbled and inspired by such a huge privilege. Now, with your permission, I would like to dedicate this gathering to an outstanding intellectual, art historian, and critic, Piotr Piotrowski, who, from the outset of this project Formwas, has been a research advisor and a crucial voice, generous in sharing his knowledge, and I want to add a remarkably beautiful person who sadly passed away last week. He'll be missed. Thank you.